Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I hope everyone's doing well and things are going great wherever you are in your respective areas of the world. So, here is a hello, hello, hello from me, and it's good to be live. And I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you again today on a topic which is uh, very, very interesting again to me. So, I'm only bringing up topics that are interesting to me, and I'm hoping that you would also find it of interest to you. So, one of the topics that we've tackled so far have been around things that keep us, in a stop energy, right? So, there are stories we tell ourselves. So, you feel guilty about something, or you don't have enough faith in yourself, and so on and so forth. So, today we're going to be talking about blame and shame. Okay, so I'm going to be clubbing the two together, not just because they sound similar, but there are similar sort of energies around that as well, right? So we're going to be looking at blame and shame. So, what is blame and what is shame, right? So, so if I look at blame, it is every time you go into blaming someone, right, for doing something which didn't match what you were hoping would happen, right? So, for instance, you had asked someone to bring you a chocolate, right? And then you realize that that person didn't buy you the chocolate that you were looking for. So you'd immediately go into this, oh, you just didn't understand, and blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth. Now this is just one simple example, but how many times in our lives have we come across situations where we are either blaming someone or we are being blamed for something, isn't it? Now, in both instances, let's look at what's really going on. So, when I'm blaming someone, okay, and I'm again taking a very simplistic example, but you can actually relate it to your lives. And when I'm blaming someone for something that they didn't do, um, do I then need to step back and look at what was really going on? Did I communicate appropriately? Did I set unrealistic expectations? Was the person truly capable of delivering what I was expecting them of? Was I giving them that allowance? Was I giving them that respect or that honor to be who they were being? Or did I impose myself upon them? Right? So, in either situation, you'll realize that the blame is nothing. It is just a story we've told ourselves that something hasn't gone right. And if I may be very blunt, then it is as simple as not taking responsibility for what's gone on wrong in your life. And wrong, I'm putting it quote unquote, because that is the definition we have given it to that particular situation or that particular instance, right? So it may not be entirely wrong. It may just be a deviation from the way you've been wanting to go, and it's taking you on a path which can unfold like million magical moments for you. But because you're caught in blaming and in the wrongness of this answer, yes, you're still stuck in that past moment. Okay, so it is almost like you are tying yourself to a pole which cannot move and then trying to run from that pole. Isn't it hilarious? So we are tying ourselves to that situation because that story is constantly alive in our lives, and then we are not able to go beyond that particular situation, right? So, so what's really going on? If we were to just take a look at that situation and say, hey, what's the value of blaming this particular person or this particular situation? Okay, and list it down. In chances are that you are trying to run away from your own responsibility in that situation. For instance, I recently met a lady who was divorced from a husband and she walked out without anything. And she kept blaming, oh, he didn't give me anything, he's giving it to all his other wives. And like this gentleman's got married like one more and once more after this particular divorce. and and she sees the way he splurges money on all these other women and on all the other people around him and says, oh, he didn't do it for me, he's such an such a heartless person, I gave my life to him, I set him up and blah 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 blah, but he did nothing for me. Okay, now given that story, how much is this lady going to move forward and look at, oh, cool, if I could create something with this person in one instance, how about out creating that? Because it was my creative capabilities as well as his creative capabilities. It was my contribution as well as his contribution. So the moment you acknowledge your own role and your own capacity in that situation, you'll realize there's nothing and nobody to be blamed. So did she have to blame him, or did she have to also recognize that she's the one who chose to walk out without asking for a penny? Now, why did she choose to do that? Okay, she chose to do that because perhaps she didn't have faith or belief in herself and her own capabilities and her place to be able to demand that of that particular person, right? So it is her own lack of self belief that caused her to be in that situation, rather than that person doing something that they would anyways do. That is just who they are. If they were so sensitive, she probably wouldn't even have divorced in the first place. But they are just who they are. So she was the one who was being blindsided, right? Completely. And then looking at the situation from a very rosy picture and saying, no, 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 this is not it. And she also was doubting herself, no, I can't ask more from this person. So who is to be blamed here? Does she have to be blamed, or does he have to be blamed? So it is she who has to be blamed and not he who has to be blamed. And does anybody have to be blamed at all, or is it just that it is taking the responsibility of everyone taking responsibility for their own actions? That is what is required. So the chances are it is everybody taking responsibility for their own actions. That is what is required, rather than someone blaming someone else. Okay, so 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 this is the thing with the blame. Now, how does one get over the blame game? And I call it a game because that is what it is. So you will blame someone else, and then someone else will blame you, and so on and so forth. The story goes on and on and on. Now, how do you get over the blame game? It's a very simple thing. So, list down everything that you're blaming somebody else for, or you are being blamed for. So, in this situation, when you are being blamed for something, look at that situation, okay, and look at it and say, hey, what are they blaming me for? Okay, if they're blaming me for something like this, could I have done something different? Okay, and you'll probably realize that maybe there was something that you could have done different, or you'll also realize that maybe you did your best, and it's just that they are just the way they are, they don't appreciate anyone or anything, in which case then whose expectation it is that you should not be blamed? It is your expectation. It is, are you then expecting a cat to go bhow bhow when the cat doesn't know how to go bhow bhow? The cat only knows how to go meow meow. So, in which case, it is my choice not to make that expectation, not to have that expectation from the particular person, right? So this is all about the blame game. And when we're looking at the blame game, uh, one part is who am I blaming? The other part is who is blaming me? And for what reason am I blaming them? And for what reason are they blaming me? Right? So, who is blaming me? Who am I blaming? For what reason are they blaming me? For what reason am I blaming them? Right? And what could have been done different here in both situations? Right? What could have been done different here so that the blame I didn't have to blame them. And what could have I done different here so that they didn't have to blame me? Right? Whose responsibility was it to take the appropriate action? So in case you have given instructions to someone and they've not followed you properly, whose responsibility was to ask a question? Theirs. But whose responsibility was to make sure that they understood the instructions? Yours, right? So, did we fulfill our bit of responsibility? Did we recognize that this person is not capable of doing what I'm asking them to do? But if I am still asking them to do, how best can I ensure that the person delivers what I'm asking them to deliver? Yeah. So then, do I have these expectations from this particular person which are completely uncalled for? So, what are the expectations that I can reasonably set here? Or I could have reasonably set here, right? Next, what are the lessons for me to learn for my future? Isn't it? So, that is when we are blaming someone. The other is when we are getting blamed, right? So, what was really going on here? Okay, whose responsibility was it? Did I fulfill my responsibility completely? Right? If I did, what was going on with the other person, which I'm not even willing to look at? Could I have done something different here? Right? I cannot decide for them. Could they have done something different? Sure, they could have done something different, but that's their choice. That's for them to look at it. But for me, it is, could I have done something different? I'll probably realize I needn't react the way I reacted. Or maybe I could have taken a stricter stance. Or maybe I should have had a lot more faith in myself. I let them get on top of me. Or vice versa. So, whichever way, so start looking at situations from multiple angles and you'll actually realize what's going on. And oftentimes, when we're blaming someone or when someone is blaming us, there is a complete lack of responsibility that has to be owned or taken. And if that is a lesson that you learn, then when going forward, you can say, oh, cool, I don't have to stick around in that story anymore. It's past, it's gone. I can move past it and learn lessons from it. Okay, what are my choices now? So, next time when I'm interacting with people, I need to A, probably have more faith in myself if that is what you've come upon, or have clearer communication, right? Or have realistic expectations. So there can be multiple things there, right? But it is it is just going to get you out of the space of constantly blaming the other person or taking the blame on yourself and internalizing. So it just goes on to, oh, I'm not a good person, okay, because they blamed me for this. I'm not good at my work because I was blamed for this. Where is that conversation taking you? Because when you're meeting people with that cloak over you that I'm not good enough, the energy that you're putting out is I'm not good enough. And what happens oftentimes is that you know inside of you that you are great, but you've bought this point of view that you're not good enough. So you have to constantly be proving yourself. And what that does is it puts you in a combative position, right? So your energies, your barriers have all just gone up because you're proving constantly that you're good enough. What if you didn't have to prove anything? What if it was okay to be wrong? What if it was okay to be less? What if it was okay? And I personally speaking, I think it's okay to be less because there is a chance for you to grow and ask questions about what else is possible, what else can you add to your life. So it is just not, the moment you take this position, oh, I know everything, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, right? And everyone else is a fool, there is no space for you to grow anymore. And to me, when you've stopped growing, it's really the end, isn't it? I don't think there can ever be a time when you can stop growing because human mind is constantly asking and seeking questions. So, what choices did we have? And what could I have chosen different? What were my reactions? What did they create for me? What choices are now available to me? And what can I choose different? How can I react to situations different, in a different manner? Yeah. So choose different reactions. Just don't choose to react differently, because differently could also be that you're choosing the same emotion but in a different manner. And it took me a lot of time to really understand this, because I used to think I'm making a different choice, but I realized that I'm only choosing differently. Till literally like last year, I realized, oh, this is what's going on. I'm throwing up the same emotion again and again, but it's just showing up in a different manner, right? So let us address the core issue here. And the moment you do that, you realize that there is nothing to blame. And there is no one to blame, because you are the one who's responsible for your universe. Yeah. So this is about the blame. And the moment you're free of blame, you're able to move beyond and you're able to move past. Otherwise, with blame, what's happening is you're constantly having to prove something based on your past. Yeah. So what if you didn't have to prove anything? What if it was okay? That was what the information you had then. You made the choices then. Okay. Today you have a fresh set of information. Will you be making those choices? Perhaps not. And are you going to be conscious about your choices? Are you going to be able to decide and choose with complete awareness of what can be and what cannot be? Because you have grown through this experience. Yeah. So, this is what blame does. Blame keeps you rooted in the past, it stops you from really moving ahead. To me, the root cause of blame always is a lack of self belief and a lack of sense of responsibility. Yeah. So I can choose to react in a certain way, I can choose to respond in a certain way, I can choose to be in a certain way, and I don't have to adhere to certain set norms and principles. Yeah. So look at all the blame that's going on in your life. Okay, whatever little it may be, you can pick it up, work it through using these tools. Blame, what's the blame, who's being blamed, what's really going on, what were the choices here, what could I have done different, what different choices could I have made, what are the lessons I'm picking up from here, and how do I use this to create my future even greater than what I had ever imagined. Yeah. So now let's move to the next bit, which is shame. Shame is, it's a buddy of blame, isn't it? Yeah. So what's really going on with shame? The shame is, oh, I feel so ashamed, or you should be ashamed. There's someone who's constantly impelling on you. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. It could be a voice inside of us, or it could be somewhere outside. So there are two things that are happening. I should be ashamed of myself is dependent on what? On a set of parameters that have been handed over to us because my behavior is not matching to those parameters. Therefore, I have to be ashamed. So there is a judgment there, okay, and there is an extremely strong judgment there, a judgment which actually keeps you rooted in a story which is not allowing you to grow, right? So we've spoken about judgments and how judgments can be used to your advantage, right? In this case, recognize that this judgment that has been impelled upon you is not to your advantage, but it is to keep you contracted in your space. Yeah. So if it is to keep you contracted in your space, what are your choices here? Isn't it? So, do you have to take on that point of view and then start that as your operating system, or say, hey, cool, that's just an interesting point of view that somebody has, and I don't need to really buy that point of view, and I can just look at it and say, okay, cool, it's their point of view. So, the whole norm of morality, the whole norm of, appropriate behaviors is there to put us into a constricted space so that somebody can control us. Yeah. So when they're impelling shame upon us, it is to control us. And when we are impelling shame upon them, it is to control them. Oh my God, you're so stupid. You didn't know this? So I have immediately put them in a constricted space. And then I can control, said, look, you are stupid. I know more than you, so you better listen to me. Rather, hey, what's going on? What if this information could help you? Could you look at some other aspects? So, questions always open up a space for you. Yeah. So, question not like, are you stupid? That's also a question. That's not going to open up any space, but a question, hey, what's going on? Would you require some more information? So, you're not making that person wrong and yourself superior, but you're actually working with that person at that level, at their level, and then opening up doors to awareness for them. Yeah. So, this is what happens with shame. When we get into a shaming situation, it is to constrict the other person or to constrict ourselves. And this is how people control us, or we control people, because it happens both ways. We also tend to control people. Yeah. And so the moment I'm shaming, what I'm doing is I'm actually taking something from the past, bringing it into the present, and projecting it into the future. Yeah. Hi, Anna. So with shame, what I'm doing is I'm taking a past that has happened and pulling it into the present and projecting into the future, telling the person how useless that person is or what a grave mistake that person has done. Right? So, this whole shame game is actually taking people down a rabbit hole where there is no end. You just keep going down and down and down and down and down. And the only way to get out of it is to look at it in the face and say, hey, really, what's going on here? What's going on here? Why am I ashamed of something? Or why am I impelling shame on someone? What could we have done different? Is there something that I truly need to be ashamed of? Not really, because I am just not matching someone else's expectation of what I should be. And there's nothing to be ashamed about it. You're just different. So acknowledge the difference that you be and recognize that that difference has been put into place so that you can contribute in your unique way to this planet. And whatever that may be, it could just be, it doesn't, contribution sometimes I've always sort of grappled with what is this contribution, right? Does it mean giving food to the poor? Does it mean, uh, you know, teaching the poor people? Does it mean working with the underprivileged? Does it mean being, so it can mean multiple things. But true contribution to me is when you're actually allowing people to be who they be. And when you are having a conversation with that true allowance, and that tolerance for each other and the love for each other and the compassion for each other, look at the possibilities you can create, because there's no one who's defending against. So you're actually being able to come out with ideas which can truly be very energizing, you know whether it is at home, whether it is at work, or whether it is just amongst friends. So, contribution, what if contribution could just be that you let the other person be secure in your presence because you are secure in your presence? You are secure about yourself. So, there is no point to prove at all. So, when you are secure and you realize that you don't have to prove anything, and when someone is coming and sharing something with you, then you don't go into any kind of a blaming them. You're stupid, you're nonsense, there's nothing of that sort. You're actually sitting there and listening to them completely in silence and in awe. Yes, of course, there are people who will irritate you. They irritate me even now. And which is where I tend to let them know that I think this is my point of view. And then I just sit back and keep quiet. Because no matter how much I try and tell them that they're wrong, that they will prove that they are right. So the best thing is to put it out there, leave it a thought, and sit back and just let it be. It will take its own shape, right? So shame, remember, also keeps you rooted in the past. In fact, it keeps you even more rooted in the past than I think blame does, because you can get past blame, but if you have internalized shame, okay, it keeps you, it's a double whammy. It keeps you in the past and it's chipped away at your own self-confidence. And that's not kind to you at all, because you have been put into this universe as a gift to humanity. And recognizing that gift that you truly be and acknowledging your talents and abilities is what is going to get you on to a path of phenomenal journey and creation and contribution. You may not write nice books, you may not be very well known, but you will have that sense of achievement that yes, you've contributed. You know, so shame, what is it that I'm ashamed of? What lies under this? Okay, so what are the societal norms, or what are the familial norms, or what are the norms that I have set for myself that are not being matched here, which are putting me in a position of shame? Is it a reality, or is it just my interesting point of view? And what can I learn beyond all of this? What can I put into place that will truly set me free? So, do I truly have to be ashamed? Or can I just say, hey, it's okay. That was then. Today, I have more information. Today is a new day. Now, what can I create? Now, what are the choices available to me? And when you start taking responsibility for your choices, is there ever a moment that you can ever be blaming someone or blaming yourself, or shaming someone or shaming yourself? Think about it. And with that, we come to our today's conversation. Next week, I'm going to be talking about jealousy, and we'll take it up from there. Okay, ta-ta, bye-bye, good night. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you have any questions, do leave me a comment, or you can private message me and we can take it up from there. Good night and sleep well.